Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're opening up some really strategic source documents. They deal with a core paradox in business leadership, this trap of success.
That's right. If you're running an organization, maybe it's profitable, but it feels like it's just consuming your entire life.
Hmm.
Well, this deep dive is definitely for you.
We're pulling back the curtain on a conflict inside, I think, every successful leader. It's this battle between being the hero and being the architect.
And it's a conflict really rooted in exhaustion. It's so critical to address because, look, the source material makes a crucial point here.
Which is?
The reason so many businesses stall out or even fail
Yeah.
after that initial startup burst, it's often not the external competition. It's an internal crisis, a crisis of leadership design.
Exactly. So our objective today is crystal clear. We need to analyze these two, well, completely opposing leadership models, the leader hero and the leader architect.
Mhm.
And the goal is to identify the precise strategic route. How do you build a business that's scalable, truly free, and importantly, sustainable?
We're basically looking for the blueprint to escape what these sources call the golden cage.
The golden cage, I like that term. But before we get into, the anatomy of these leader types, we have to look at the numbers, the cold, hard statistics.
Yeah, the documents confirm a pretty harsh reality, especially for leaders of small and medium enterprises, SMEs.
Okay, what are we talking about?
Only 5 out of every 10 SMEs manage to survive after their first 5 years.
Wait, hang on. Only 5 out of 10, half, survive 5 years. That's genuinely shocking.
It is. And if the market isn't the primary killer, like you said earlier,
Then we have to look in the mirror, right?
and that's exactly where we find this chilling paradox. The leader's own indispensable effort, their dedication, that becomes the number one obstacle to future growth.
So the very thing that saved the company early on,
Now holds it prisoner. That initial heroic dedication, it's the bottleneck.
that's the carcel de oro, the golden cage. You worked tirelessly, you made all the sacrifices, bled for the business, and now you have this maybe thriving, profitable structure.
But that's success. It's centralized everything. Every decision, every problem lands right on your desk.
So you're generating revenue, sure, but you've basically traded your personal life for it. And worse, maybe you've become the ultimate ceiling on your company's growth.
You're the prisoner of your own creation. And you're forced to choose. Am I the hero, constantly fighting fires? Or can I become the architect, designing a building that's inherently fireproof?
That's the core question. So to understand the cure, we need to diagnose the disease first. Let's dive into part 1. The hero leader, the anatomy of the bottleneck.
Okay, so the leader-hero, the hero leader, they're defined not as a bad leader necessarily. They're often the essential engine, the main problem solver. They're talented, dedicated.
And constantly intervening, that's the key.
That's the key. But strategically, that constant intervention, it's the core source of systemic stagnation. The hero is essential, yes, but they are also the organization's main bottleneck.
It sounds like the hero's approach isn't really a personality flaw then. It's more like a broken operational model that just generates dependency.
It absolutely is. And the sources detail this severe dual pain the hero experiences. It's a relentless grind. It operates on 2 levels, the external measurable pain and then the internal emotional exhaustion.
Okay, let's tackle the external first. The dolor operativo, operational pain. This is the stuff you can see, right? On the balance sheet, in the team's daily struggles.
Exactly. The first symptom is just stagnation. The business is making money, which feels like success.
Right.
But predictable, scalable growth, it stopped. They start seeing errors and losses become chronic. They're recurring issues.
So they're basically spinning their wheels faster and faster just to stay in the same place?
Or worse, slowly falling behind because their personal capacity just cannot match the company's potential size or complexity anymore.
And then there's the most debilitating external symptom, according to the sources, this absolute dependency.
Yes. And listeners really need to reflect on this number. The sources estimate that 80% of all critical decisions require the hero's exclusive approval.
80%. Think about that. 4 out of every 5 crucial decisions. Hiring, pricing, client issues, new product specs. Everything waits for one single person's bandwidth.
Imagine the operational constipation. It paralyzes the entire organization. They might be running at 100% effort. Everyone's busy.
That's strategically.
They're operating at maybe 20% decision capacity because everything funnels back to the hero.
And this leads straight to the hero's frustration with symptom number 3, the reactive team.
Right. The hero is constantly complaining, my team just doesn't take initiative. They can't solve problems on their own.
But here's the profound irony you mentioned.
The hero trained them to be reactive. By always jumping in, by always having the final answer, the hero conditioned the team to just wait.
Why risk failing if you know the hero will eventually swoop in and fix it perfectly?
Exactly. The team adopts this mindset of kind of learned helplessness. They wait for the emergency room doctor to arrive, and that, of course, guarantees the hero remains indispensable.
So while this operational pain is just throttling the company's potential, the hero is suffering internally too. This deep, dull, emotional pain. This must be the real cost of that golden cage.
It really is the primary symptom. Chronic exhaustion, burnout, that dream they started with. It's devolved into this self-imposed mandatory labor.
They can't disconnect.
They can't, because they know, statistically, the company's waiting on their 80% approval rate for critical stuff. And this naturally leads to a growing resentment.
Resentment towards the team.
Yeah, primarily the team. They feel unappreciated because the team, who only has maybe 20% decision authority, they don't truly grasp the immense pressure the hero is under.
The hero's sacrificing weekends, health, family, and the team just seems, from their perspective, perpetually incapable.
Which then leads to the deepest loss of all. Loss of purpose, that initial dream.
Yeah.
Freedom, impact, building something. It's completely devolved into this asphyxiating routine defined purely by sacrifice.
Wow. And that entire cycle, the burnout, the stagnation, the team's helplessness, it all stems from one core limiting belief, the hero's fundamental mantra.
Yes. Si no lo hago yo, no sal bien.
If I don't do it, it won't be right.
And that belief, it's completely self-filling. It forces the hero to stay perpetually involved in tasks that should have become systems years ago. They believe their effort is the only thing adding real value.
And that belief, paradoxically, is what generates the greatest financial waste in the company.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Which brings us straight into part 2.
Right, where we shift perspective. We stop looking at heroic effort and start looking at pure operational efficiency, or rather, the lack of it. We need to introduce this concept of muda, or waste.
Exactly. The hero's high effort isn't solving the problem. In many ways, it's actively generating the waste.
So muda, tell us about that.
Muda is a core concept from lean management. It's Japanese for waste. And it's defined as any activity that consumes resources, time, money, talent, without adding any value from the client's perspective. But what the source material really emphasizes is how the hero's own deep-seated fears are the direct engine generating the systemic waste. It's not accidental.
That's fascinating. So the waste isn't just like inefficiency, it's a byproduct of the leader trying to manage their own anxiety through microcontrol.
That's a great way to put it. And the sources break it down into 3 major types of waste driven by these heroic fears.
Okay, let's explore them. What's the first one?
We start with muda de espera, waiting waste. The hero's explicit belief here is often delegating is losing control.
And what's the fear underneath that?
It's usually a profound underlying fear. Fear of bankruptcy, fear of reputational loss, if they aren't personally inspecting every single decision.
The result is just organizational paralysis. And this is where we need to put a number on the pain again. The sources say the team is paralyzed, waiting for that 80% approval, generating up to 25 distinct waiting activities in just one process.
25. It sounds unbelievable, but think about it.
Can you give us an example? Like, visualize what 25 waiting points look like.
Absolutely. Let's take a standard sales cycle. Sales rep gets a potential yes on a contract. That's activity 1.
Okay.
Now they need pricing approved. That's waiting activity 1. The hero's in a meeting. Rep waits 3 hours. Okay. Gets approval, drafts the contract activity 2. Now, legal needs to sign off.
But legal needs confirmation on, say, delivery terms from the hero first.
Exactly. Waiting activity 2. Rep emails the hero. Hero's traveling, doesn't see it for a day. Waiting activity 3. Then the client requests one tiny modification to the terms.
And the whole approval cycle has to restart. Waiting activities 4, 5, 6.
You got it. It's this constant friction, the system just grinding to a halt because it can't breathe without the central lung, the hero. Every single moment someone is waiting for an email, a signature, a decision, that's a direct cost. Productivity lost, timeline stretched, salary wasted.
And morale must just plummet. Okay, what's the second type of muda?
Next is muda de defectos y retrabajos, defects and rework. This comes straight from that limiting mantra we talked about. No one can do it as well as I can.
Right. If I don't do it, it won't be right. And the core fear here is...
It's almost existential for the hero. It's the fear of being replaced. Or maybe that their personal value diminishes if they aren't the only source of quality.
But this fear creates this vicious feedback loop, doesn't it? Because the hero doesn't trust enough to create clear, written protocols or systems.
Exactly. The team then lacks the objective standards they need to perform at the required level consistently.
So defects happen.
Yes. The sources identify up to 7 recurrent types of defects in some cases, simply because the processes are subjective. They rely on the hero's sporadic judgment, not documented standards.
And then the hero steps in.
Like the firefighter they correct these, often low-value tasks. They spend their high-value time fixing errors caused by the very lack of systems they should have spent their time designing in the first place.
Fulfilling their own prophecy. See, I told you it wouldn't be right if I didn't do it. It's self-sabotage that justifies their own burnout.
Precisely. And the third type of waste is, in many ways, the most devastating. It's muda de talento, no utilizado, untapped talent.
Okay. What's the belief driving this one?
The belief is often, I am the only one who solves the real problems around here. And the underlying fear, it's deep. It's the fear of the company functioning perfectly without them, the fear of becoming unnecessary.
Wow. So by monopolizing all the problem solving and the big decisions.
The leader puts a hard ceiling on skill development for everyone else. Those high-value employees, the ones actively seeking autonomy, mastery, purpose, they quickly realize they're just executors. They're not true contributors.
They get frustrated, feel minimized.
And eventually they leave. They take their capacity, their knowledge, their potential with them. The company literally bleeds talent precisely because the leader is trying too hard to prove their own value.
This whole analysis, it really confirms that heroic leadership isn't just, a morale issue or a management style preference. It's a profound financial disaster.
Absolutely. The erosion of profitability caused by all this rework, waiting, chronic errors, it's huge.
Do the sources quantify that?
They provide a terrifying example. In one analyzed case, a project managed under this pure hero model, absolutely riddled with waiting, and rework reached a negative profitability margin of -12.65%.
Minus 12%. They literally lost 12 cents for every dollar of revenue generated on that project.
Yes, because the hidden costs of all that muda completely outweighed the client payment. The hero's effort actually destroyed value.
That is staggering. And the flip side is the potential just being squandered.
Exactly. The sources highlight that just eliminating these wastes by transitioning away from the hero model can lead to something like a 59.32% reduction in the cycle time of a key process.
It's almost 60% faster.
Yes. That is capacity just sitting there, waiting to be unlocked. But the whole destructive cycle is sustained by the hero's dedication, making them a martyr of the very system they've failed to design properly.
Okay, so how do we break that cycle? That brings us to part 3, the architect leader.
Right. And this isn't about working harder. It's about a complete paradigm shift. The architect leader's value isn't in doing the work or being the chief problem solver.
Their value is where?
It's in designing the system that performs the work, autonomously and predictably. They shift from focusing on operational excellence themselves to building organizational excellence through systems.
This shift in control sounds absolutely crucial. You're moving from, what was it, personal control?
Yes, personal control, which is subjective, volatile, totally dependent on the leader's mood, their presence, their energy level.
To systemic control.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is objective, it's auditable, and it depends on the established process, not the person. The idea is you control the system, and the system controls the outcome.
And the ultimate goal here is transforming the business from that golden cage
into an empresa activo, an enterprise asset, an organization that generates predictable results, high value, and does it independently of the founder's daily hands-on presence.
So the founder is no longer the highest paid, most overworked employee.
They become the owner of a valuable, self-sustaining machine. That's the dream.
Oh, okay. But this brings us to a really vital distinction. Because I know a lot of leaders, hero leaders, they try to delegate. And they fail spectacularly, and then they retreat right back into that cage, more convinced than ever that only they can do it right.
Absolutely. We have to clarify the massive difference between abdication and systemic delegation. This is where the true architect separates themselves from the well-intentioned but ultimately ineffective hero.
So what's abdication?
Abdication is essentially the hero's failed attempt at delegation. The sources describe it perfectly as soltar e rezar, letting go and praying.
Just hoping for the best.
Yeah, you pass off a task, but without a clear framework, no defined authority limits, no clear rules of engagement. You basically force your team to guess what standard you expect.
Which inevitably leads to failure.
Almost always. And this failure then becomes the hero's justification. See, I told you, it wouldn't be right if I didn't do it myself. But it wasn't delegation. It was an act of fear-driven abandonment. You set them up to fail.
So abdication is like outsourcing the effort, but providing none of the structure or support.
Perfectly put.
Hmm.
Systemic delegation, on the other hand, is the Architects Act. It is the transfer of real and explicit authority,
Huh.
but it's contained within a secure, protected framework. You aren't placing blind faith in the person's intuition or hoping they read your mind. You're placing trust in the system design.
It's organizational engineering.
It is. The system is engineered to absorb the risk, allowing the person to then execute the decision confidently within those boundaries. The question shifts from, can I trust this person, to, is this system robust enough to protect the business while empowering the person?
Okay, that makes sense. It's about trusting the process, not just the person. So if systemic delegation is organizational engineering, we need the blueprint for that machine.
Which brings us to part 4, the core mechanism for this engineering, the Protocol of No Intervention, PNI.
Protocol of no intervention. I like the sound of that.
It's designed specifically to safely transfer that real authority we talked about, and crucially, to proactively eliminate the need for the hero to constantly jump in as the firefighter.
So the PNI is basically a decision system designed to prevent those 80% dependency points.
Exactly. It ensures that the role closest to the point of impact has the clear, codified authority to act immediately without waiting for the hero. And the sources detail 6 essential elements. Think of them as the DNA of decision-making in an architect-led company.
And these need to be designed with obsessive detail, you said.
Obsessive detail. Ambiguity is the enemy here. Let's break them down.
Okay, number 1.
The disparador. The trigger. This is the objective, measurable event that starts the protocol automatically.
So no interpretation needed. No, but maybe we should.
None. It's the if X happens, then Y protocol starts function. A trigger might be inventory for part Z drops below 15 units. Or customer submits a complaint marked priority level 1, or maybe quarterly budget variance in Department A exceeds 5%.
It just happens, objectively. And the system kicks in without waiting for the hero to notice or tell someone to act.
Precisely. Number 2 is the dueño, the owner. Importantly, this is the role, not the person, closest to the impact point, who receives the decision authority defined in the PNI.
Why is stressing the role over the person so critical?
Because if the authority is tied only to Jane Doe and Jane Doe leaves, you're right back in the hero trap. The system collapses. But if you assign the authority to the role, say, the regional sales manager or the lead technician on shift B, you build organizational resilience. If the person in that role changes, the authority instantly transfers with the role. The system remains stable, predictable. It's vital for succession planning and true scalability.
Got it. Element 3.
The Mínimo de Desempeño Operativo, MDO. Think of this as the system's safety net. It contains the non-negotiable standards, quality minimums, legal compliance boundaries, profitability floors. This is where the architect protects the overall enterprise asset.
So these are the guardrails, like the owner has authority, but within these limits.
Exactly. For example, a P&I might grant the sales manager, the dueño, the authority to offer discounts to close a major deal, triggered by deal size. But the MDO would dictate that the final profitability margin on that deal cannot drop below, say, 15%.
And if the only way to close the deal is at 12% margin?
Then the protocol automatically forces the issue to escalate. But, and this is key, it escalates because a clear, objective rule within the MDO was potentially violated, not just because the manager felt unsure.
Makes sense. And the MDO also includes something called proactive contingency analysis.
Yes, this is like built-in insurance. It's anticipatory design. The architect doesn't just wait for things to go wrong.
They plan for failure.
They anticipate known, common failure points. What if our key supplier goes bankrupt? What if the designated owner is unexpectedly absent for 3 weeks? The analysis sets up predefined alternative flows or actions before the crisis hits. This eliminates that reactive panic that always fuels heroic behavior. The system is designed to handle common failures gracefully.
Smart. Okay, number 4.
The flujo de decision, the decision flow. Once the trigger happens, and assuming the action stays within the MDO guardrails, this is the clear, maybe even error-proof algorithm or process the owner must follow.
Like a flowchart or a standard operating procedure for that specific decision.
Exactly. If the trigger was supplier X is late with delivery, the flow might say. Step 1, contact alternative supplier Y, pre-approved under the MDO. Step 2, if Y cannot meet deadline, authorize express shipping from X up to Z cost limit. Step 3, document decision in system. It standardizes the response, reduces decision fatigue for the owner, and ensures predictability. Everyone knows the expected high-quality outcome because the process is defined.
Okay. Number 5 seems interesting. The Protocolo de Compensación por Contingencia, PCC. This links the system to motivation.
Directly. This is the automatic and fair reward. Maybe it's a small bonus, extra time off, or increased autonomy on future decisions that the owner receives for successfully executing the P&I, especially under pressure.
So if the owner handles a really high-stress client complaint perfectly using the P&I system,
The PCC ensures they are recognized for it immediately, fairly, automatically. It formally acknowledges the responsibility they assumed and the risks they handled successfully within the system. It shifts the culture away from unnoticed martyrdom towards recognized, rewarded responsibility. The system actively rewards people for acting like architects within their defined scope.
that seems powerful for culture change. Okay, finally, number 6.
The valvula de escape auditoria, the escape valve or audit function. The architect still needs oversight, but it needs to be strategic, not tactical.
So this isn't about micromanaging the person executing the P&I.
Absolutely not. This is the leader's mechanism to audit the health of the system itself. The architect steps back and asks, is this P&I actually leading to the expected results? Are the MDO margins still appropriate for the current market? Is the team consistently utilizing the P&I or are they bypassing it?
And if the system isn't working as intended?
Then the architect's job is to redesign the protocol, tweak the MDO, or improve the training. It keeps the leader focused on strategic design and continuous improvement of the system, not on operational minutia or blaming people.
That whole P&I structure, it sounds incredibly robust. It's like designing the rules of the game, not playing every position on the field.
That's a perfect analogy. And while the P&I creates stunning operational efficiency, Part 5 reveals that the benefits actually run much deeper than just speed or cost savings.
How so?
The systematic empowerment, it actively repairs something the sources called the salario emotional, the emotional salary.
Emotional salary.
Yeah.
So the non-monetary rewards, the things that really drive loyalty, commitment, and crucially, talent retention.
Precisely. When the hero monopolizes all the decisions, they inadvertently destroy the team's emotional salary by stealing their agency, their sense of contribution.
But the architect, through systemic delegation via things like the P&I, actively restores it.
Yes. And this is how they ensure their top talent not only stays but grows with the company they feel they're genuinely helping to build. The sources outline 7 essential pillars of this emotional salary that get rebuilt. These are the deepest levers for team motivation.
Okay, let's list them. What's first?
First, autonomy and dominio, or autonomy and mastery. The P&I literally hands over the power to make real decisions within a safe, defined structure. Employees get genuine control over their sphere of influence.
That makes sense. Second.
Second, proposito y transcendencia, purpose and transcendence. Executing a P&I isn't just doing a task. It connects their daily actions to the company's broader mission of building a resilient, effective organization. They see how their decision contributes to the bigger picture.
Third is critical, I think. Seguridad psychological safety.
Absolutely vital. The P&I framework creates a learning environment. If an error occurs within the process, the focus is on improving the process, not blaming or punishing the individual. You can't have people taking ownership if they fear retribution for honest mistakes made while following the system.
Okay. Fourth?
Fourth, reconocimiento y recompensa, recognition and reward. This is directly addressed by that PCC protocol we just discussed. Fair, timely evaluation of effort and achievement.
Fifth.
Crecimiento y oportunidad, growth and opportunity. Clear paths for professional development naturally arise because employees are now solving more complex problems, the very problems the hero previously monopolized. They're building skills.
Sixth sounds like a direct antidote to burnout. Flexibilidad y balance?
This is for
Flexibility and balance.
It is. The system works even when people need to step away, take vacation, handle personal matters. It demonstrates respect for work-life integration because the organization doesn't grind to a halt if one person is out.
And finally, seventh.
Comunidad y pertenencia, community and belonging. Collaboration becomes possible, even necessary, within and between P&Is. It fosters a sense of connection that's simply impossible when everyone is just waiting in line for the hero's attention.
Wow. So when you connect all those dots, the architect's strategy isn't just about efficiency, it's about building a fundamentally healthier human system.
Exactly. It forms this robust causal chain. The architect understands that organizational health drives financial success. It goes. Repaired emotional salary leads to elimination of mutis, waste, because engaged people naturally optimize.
Which leads to
Efficient processes, which leads to customer satisfaction, because things work better and faster, which ultimately drives financial results.
So investing in system design and emotional salary isn't soft stuff. It's actually the most direct path to hard results.
It's the single best way to achieve both operational and human resource excellence simultaneously. The employees become the natural custodians of the processes, which eliminates waste far more effectively than any top-down mandate ever could.
This really paints a clear picture of the two paths. Let's move into part 6, the comparative analysis. We need to really define the legacy each type of leader is building. Let's use that comparison table from the sources to starkly contrast these two archetypes.
Okay. The contrast is really illuminating when you lay it out side by side. Let's start with the FOCO principle, the main focus.
The heroes focus.
Reacting. Constantly reacting to daily problems. Living by the crisis of the moment. The architect's focus.
Preventing. Designing robust processes that anticipate and prevent failures before they happen.
Now look at their perceived valor, their value to the company. The hero's value is seen in their indispensable personal intervention.
We couldn't have done it without them.
Exactly. Whereas the architect's value is their system vision and the resulting system that works without their constant intervention. Their value is in the design, not the doing.
And the resultato final, the end result. This is the legacy piece.
The hero ultimately builds a job for themselves. Often a high-paying, high-stress job, but still a job. That's the golden cage, the architect.
It builds an asset, an impresa activo, a legacy that endures and provides true financial and personal freedom.
We can actually trace this stark contrast through real business history. The sources give a couple of powerful examples. First, let's look at the hero's downfall, Calzado Canada.
The Mexican footwear giant?
That's the one. Salvador López Chávez built a massive empire. He was the absolute epitome of the leader hero. Sources say he personally controlled everything: finance, key supplier relationships, high-level marketing, store locations.
His power and genius were undeniable then.
Absolutely. But they were completely inextricably linked to his personal presence and his sort of tight grip on information and decisions. He built a company totally dependent on his personal genius.
Not on a system that could sustain itself.
Exactly. And the tragedy unfolded precisely as the model predicts. When the hero, López Chávez, died, the system died with him.
Why so suddenly?
Because all the critical supplier contacts, the deep financial knowledge, the strategic direction, it resided almost solely in his head. It was a perfect, tragic example of heroic retention of power as value. The company, literally unable to function without its central figure, collapsed and eventually disappeared. He built a massive vehicle for his own effort, but not a perdurable system, not a true legacy.
Wow, that's a cautionary tale. Now, contrast that with the architect's triumph, Toyota.
A very different story. When Toyota faced severe post-war challenges, near bankruptcy, they weren't saved by some solitary genius CEO making heroic top-down interventions.
They were saved
By operational system design, they implemented foundational systems like Jidoka.
Can you explain Jidoka briefly?
Jidoka is this incredible concept often translated as automation or automation with a human touch. Critically, it granted every single operator on the production line the authority and the responsibility to stop the entire assembly line if they detected a defect.
Stop the entire line, just one operator.
Yes. Think about that empowerment. That's not just quality control. That's the P&I philosophy in action decades ago. They put the authority and the systemic control right at the point of impact. They trusted the system design, which included empowering the worker over relying on personal supervisory vigilance after the fact.
That is the essence of architecture. They replaced the need for a supervisor, a sort of mini-hero, to spot the error later, with a system that empowered the frontline employee to prevent the waste immediately.
And the result? Toyota built a system of operational excellence that transcends any single individual. It became the global benchmark for organizational resilience and continuous improvement. They built an asset, a legacy.
Okay, these examples make the distinction incredibly clear. So for our listeners who might be wondering which one am I, we need to give them tools for self-diagnosis.
Right. The sources offer 4 pretty definitive questions. They help you measure your own level of dependency and figure out where you fall on that hero-architect spectrum.
Let's go through them. The first 3 really check that operational dependence. Question 1. How many decisions taken this past week should realistically have been taken by someone else on your team?
Be honest with yourself on that one.
Yep.
Question 2. How many core processes critically depend on your personal approval in less than, say, 24 hours to keep moving?
And 3. What was the last major improvement idea implemented in your business that did not originate from you?
If your answer to the first 2 is most of them, or maybe even all of them, You're likely deep inside that golden cage.
And if the answer to the third is, I can't remember.
Then you're probably monopolizing the organization's strategic brainpower, acting as the sole source of innovation, another hero symptom.
But the final question, this is the ultimate test, isn't it? The definitive diagnosis of your system's actual strength, the moment of truth for any aspiring architect.
This is the one. Question 4. If you took 3 months of vacation completely unplugged, no access to email or calls, would your business grow, maintain, or collapse?
Wow. Just sit with that question.
Your honest answer determines whether you truly own an asset or just a very profitable, all-consuming job. If the answer is collapse, or even significantly decline, you've built a golden cage that requires your continuous heroic sacrifice to sustain.
But there's hope, right? The good news is the path towards architecture doesn't require boiling the ocean overnight.
Not at all. The sources suggest the first most courageous step is actually quite simple, yet incredibly powerful. Identify just one small, recurring process that you currently handle, mostly through your own personal effort, vigilance, and intervention, your heroism. Maybe it's approving expense reports below a certain amount or handling a specific type of customer inquiry.
And
then dare to design its very first, perhaps imperfect, protocol of no intervention for that one small thing. Define the trigger, the owner role, the MDO, the simple flow. Start small, learn, iterate, but start building the blueprint for your freedom.
that feels achievable, one brick at a time.
Exactly. So as we wrap up this deep dive, the central argument seems inescapable, really.
Which is?
The dependence of the leader-hero, however well-intentioned, isn't a sign of virtue or commitment. Strategically, it's the most dangerous form of muda. It limits the company's potential, it consumes financial resources, and it exhausts the most valuable asset the company has, the leader's own vision and energy.
And true freedom, true scalability. It's never going to come from just working harder or sacrificing more within that hero model.
Never. It comes from that brave, strategic decision to step back, stop playing the hero, and start constructing an intelligent system. Building those P&Is, trusting the process. The path of the hero, ultimately, is a dead end. It leads to stagnation or collapse.
The decision you make, consciously or unconsciously, really defines your future legacy.
It does. The hero earns a salary with their relentless effort, often becoming a martyr to their own creation. They build a beautiful but ultimately fragile job. The architect.
The architect builds a legacy, an asset that not only endures but can actually grow and thrive beyond their personal presence.
That's the choice, martyr or architect.
So we want to leave you, our listeners, with one final provocative thought to reflect on this week. It builds directly on this concept of systemic design.
Okay.
When you look at your calendar for next week, are you spending more of your time solving problems that have already happened? Or are you dedicating time to designing a future where those problems simply cannot exist?
Fighting fires versus fireproofing the building?
Exactly. Think about that system design. Where is your energy really going?
That's a powerful question to end on. Thank you for diving deep with us today into the architecture of freedom.